Hello, everybody. Good day to you. This is Molly McCord, and welcome to our Wednesday podcast where we talk about the intuitive astrology energies of right now and in the week ahead. Thank you for joining me. We have a lot to get to today. I feel especially buzzy, and I'm going to try and not talk too quickly, but this Mercury in Aries energy, I am feeling it, and it has that effect of turning what was foggy or unclear in your mind and sharpening it. It brings something into focus because that's what Aries does. It says, I want this. I'm ready for this, for the next adventure, the next start, the new ideas. So you could feel that if you have Aries in your chart, if you have fire signs in your chart. We now have Mercury in Aries, and things get sharper, stronger, and clearer. I'm going to talk more about this new energy in today's show, as well as the other big transits we have going on over the next week. We have a lot. It's a big list, including a powerful Libra Full Moon on April 19th, which is the second Libra Full Moon of the cycle, and it is strongly emphasizing closure, completions, letting things finalize so you can move on. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in today's show too. But first, I would like to start by actually talking about the Notre Dame fire. And this happened on Monday, April 15th, and it was shocking because it's one of those visuals that you never think you're going to see. And it took a second to register that such an iconic cathedral would be on fire, and I know that it triggered a lot of emotion, in myself included, that something that is so beautiful and historic and monumental would be susceptible to a fire. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this energetically. I do want to reference you to a brilliant article by another astrologer. Her name is Leah Whitehorse, and you can go to leahwhitehorse.com. I do not know her personally, although I have read her work before, and she wrote this really brilliant article about the astrology of the Notre Dame fire. And I think that it's so well and clearly written that you'll get a lot out of it potentially, especially if you enjoy symbology, Sabian symbols, asteroids. So that article I think is the best one that I've seen. And it includes how the rising sign at the time of the fire was Libra, and the asteroid Paris was conjunct the ascendant. It talks about how Venus, Our Lady Venus, and how Notre Dame means Our Lady, and the energy of Venus in the chart, and of course the energy of Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn. So it's just a great piece, and I love other astrologers. There's so many great astrologers out here these days that when I find work that I think you would benefit from, I just want to pass it on and share it. So this Notre Dame fire, we had other fires happening. The third biggest mosque in Jerusalem was on fire at the same time, and I believe there's also another fire in New York. This is Holy Week. It was Palm Sunday, and astrologically we had the grand trine in fire signs late on the 14th, and that would mean a trine means three fires, and in fire signs, and fire is obviously represented here in the physical world through these spiritual establishments literally being on fire. And we can look at the meaning of this fire through many different perspectives and lenses. And I like to pull in the historical because I think that adds more understanding about the energy of Notre Dame. And it's important to note that yes, this cathedral was over 800 years old. It took nearly 300 years to build it, which is nothing compared to the Sagrada de Familia in Barcelona, which has taken longer to build. But Notre Dame is actually in a pivotal place in Paris, because this is where Paris began. And before Paris was Paris as we know it, it was known as Lutetia, and it was settled by the Gauls. And this was back in the BC era under the reign of Augustus. And so this is a part of the world where there has been a lot of energy, a lot of wars and fights and establishments and cultures and people that have come through. And it's on these two islands here in Paris, in the middle of the Seine, that were the original city. Not only is this where Paris began, it is also where there are ruins. The space that Notre Dame is built on is actually a crypt. And a lot of people have died here because of these wars and the revolutions, and through the centuries, all of the ways that this territory was defended and fought for. Not to mention the civilizations and the people who lived here. So when we look at this land in Paris that now holds Notre Dame, the beautiful cathedral that it is, that is also the Catholic Church, and all of the events through history that Notre Dame had been a part of, and surviving the French Revolution, surviving the World Wars and the Nazis, being the place of monarchy and royalty and weddings and celebrations, and of course places where people commune and arrive. There's a lot of energy here in this little island in the Seine, in the massive city of Paris. And so the fire energy that I was feeling more intuitively and, of course, figuratively is how fire is a clearing. And it's, yes, a devastation, and yes, it is traumatic to witness, but it also clears out what has been trapped, what has been stagnant and still. And, of course, these cathedrals, they don't have windows that open, and their air and what's below the building is ancient. And we never want these things to be destroyed, of course, but there was a clearing. And I felt it energetically around what had been perhaps trapped in the cathedral, below the cathedral. I mean, you think about the hundreds of years it took to build the cathedral, and in hours it's destroyed. And the symbolism here might be something to sit with if you wanted to. But I felt like there was some type of release, of a clearing, and it certainly related to religion and spiritual practices, and it's certainly related to what has transpired and the ancient energies of this site. And I feel like this is an interesting event that's happening here in April 2019, because astrologically, these are the energies that we also will be experiencing in January 2020. So there's layers here of information, of understanding around how our world is changing, how what we have perhaps put a lot of time, energy, and effort into building over many years, many decades, many centuries can be removed or undone within minutes and hours. And it reveals what we value now. It reveals what we want to rebuild and what we end, where there's the end of an era. So I feel like this is an interesting, very interesting energy movement that is also showing fire represents anger, courage, growth, energy, motivation, inspiration, and it roars. And I'm feeling like there's a lot of energies here as they relate to what the Catholic Church is moving through with the sex abuse scandals and what's been covered up through many decades and in many different states, but all over the world. And there's also the stories around nuns who have abused children, and that's been covered up a little bit more. But there's a lot of clearing and coming out of energies that have been trapped and that are being burned away, to let in the sunlight, to let in the fresh air. So this would just be one interpretation to offer you. But there's deep energies here because, again, the energies of April, interesting that I said September, huh? April, right now, are coming back in January 2020. So these are the themes of our world changing, and these are the themes of what we let go of and then what we choose to rebuild. And I feel that the astrology of this time is bringing us back to what matters right now, what we value right now, but it's also deeply asking us to let go. And I feel that understanding the energetics makes that easier, and that's how I tend to approach things. That's what I offer you, is the energetics, and how, of course, the energy of today very different, and where we're going is very different than where we've been. So, of course, so many blessings to Paris and to all the firefighters and to those who were taking care of Notre Dame, especially as they look to find the cause and to rebuild it. And I know there's some conspiracy theories out there, and I love a good conspiracy theory, but it's interesting to see what they will discover. And I feel like there are ways here to remember that what we value, what we love, can never be lost, And when I lived in Paris, and I went to Notre Dame often, of course, visited one of my favorite places was right behind Notre Dame. There's a great garden right on the Seine, very quiet, very lovely. I had friends who lived all around Notre Dame. It's just a high traffic area. If you've been to Paris, of course, it's probably been on your list. So it's a world monument. It's a place of global energies and global connections. So I feel that it will be interesting how we move forward and how this represents some of the bigger changes that are happening right now on the planet too. So astrologically, as I mentioned at the start of the show, Mercury just entered Aries on April 6th, and that tends to make things move faster. It brings a sharpness and a clarity. It can be having too much in your head right now that you want to say or do or think, all the ideas, all kinds of projects. It can feel very fresh. Mercury being how we think and communicate, as well as how we process information. And so we get things moving every time a planet moves into Aries. And so Mercury moves into Aries, and it's currently in mutual reception to Mars in Gemini. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is in Gemini. Gemini rules Mercury. So they're basically in a partnership here, and what they have in common is speed. And on Monday, I'll be doing a story time for you about this Mercury and Mars connection. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into talking about it because I think it's going to be quite energizing and lively. But in the meantime, Mars is in Gemini, which makes us move faster, okay, which gets us out into the world and getting things done and socializing. Well, now that Mercury is in Aries, that speed can feel amplified. So be careful. Don't move too fast. Be aware of what you say, of what you do. This energy is quick moving, which can also feel very welcomed after the slowness of Mercury in Pisces for over 2 months, it could feel like everything that was backed up just comes out. Like you just have all these things you want to say or do, that there's finally energy for forward-moving progress. It's quite dynamic, and it can move too fast as well, because there's a sense of I want to make up for lost time, or I want to get things going. But pace it. Don't make those careless mistakes by moving too fast. And know that, yes, it is time to initiate. It's time to think new, to start fresh, and to even give yourself that sense of fresh air. Mercury is going to be making a conjunction to Chiron that will be fast-moving as well, with Chiron at 3 degrees. So it's basically in effect now as Mercury is within orb of Chiron. And that means words can hurt at first, and they can get a reaction such as anger, which is an Aries trait, quick to anger, an impulsive reaction. But because Mercury is involved, it's like we can say something unintentionally hurtful. We cannot think it through. So stay aware of the words you say to yourself and the words that you speak to others. And this conjunction to Chiron is asking you to stay in beginner's mind, to allow yourself some time and space to see something differently, to think about it differently, to check in with any victim consciousness that you might be holding that is limiting your potentials, limiting what you want to do. And that victim consciousness could be, who am I to do this? Or I don't think I can handle that, or I don't think I have the courage. It's where you are working against yourself. You're working against your own power. And so just keep that in mind. You know, anytime we're learning something new or starting something fresh, it takes time. We figure it out. You think it's going to take 10 minutes. It takes 3 hours. You could expect a lot of yourself. And this is saying just take it day by day. See what happens. Allow yourself to learn. And once Mercury gets past Chiron, I feel there's more courage that comes in of, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, this feels right. So it's just, it could even feel like it's unexpected, because sometimes those Chiron messages come up in a way that you didn't see coming, and it creates an insecurity or a vulnerability or a doubt, but it shows where you're ready to become mentally stronger. Mentally stronger. So Mercury moves in to Aries. Venus will move into Aries April 20th. And at this time, Venus is actually quite pivotal right now. She's moving through the last few degrees of Pisces. And these are the quietest degrees in the zodiac. These are the degrees of truly feeling emptied of a cycle, emptied of perhaps any remaining grief, sorrow, deeper feelings, emptied because you understand what you were moving through or experiencing. It's a very quiet energy. It's very internal and receptive. It allows you to open up to the bigger spiritual energies, the bigger healing, the bigger soul's journey. So that's where Venus is right now as she completes her last few days in Pisces, completing a whole cycle. And she's emphasized because she is the ruler of the second Libra full moon on April 19th. I have a separate video for you on YouTube that talks about the specifics of this energy. And essentially, this Libra full moon, it's at 29 degrees, which is the closing degrees, a critical degree, a completion degree. And it's in Libra, which is relationships. And because it's a full moon, it's awareness. So there's this awareness around what you've been learning in relationships that perhaps have been a lifelong pattern, something that you've seen that you didn't realize was being enacted or engaged in many relationships in your life because it represented an unconscious part of you. Libra is the energy of mirroring, where we aren't always aware of ourselves, but then we attract that energy in another. It's a reflection. And there's something that's coming up here that's meant to be a change for you. On Monday's show, I talked about this being a changeover week. And the changeover is in your personal awareness around how you're participating in relationships with other people that no longer serves you, as we say in the spiritual world, that no longer fits, no longer true for you, and you're looking to shift it. You're looking to shift what you've learned. And Venus, being the ruler of this full moon, she's going to be at 28 degrees of Pisces. Again, completion energy, spiritual lessons learned, deeper healing. Because Venus brings in the love of ourselves, the condition to unconditional love from Spirit, God, Source. It reminds you to be gentle with yourself. You did the best you could. You understood some things that you needed to move through. There's a gentleness here. It's a compassion energy. And this full moon, it asks you to complete a chapter. And then the moon is going to move into Scorpio. It's going to oppose Uranus at 2 degrees of Taurus. And then the sun is going to move across Uranus April 22nd. So there's this, when you complete the energy of the full moon, then both luminaries interact with Uranus. And you realize there's no going back because your value system has changed, specifically how you value yourself, what you need. And there's this breakout energy. It's this letting yourself go, letting it be complete, and just having that period at the end of the sentence, or just feeling like, I get it, it's clear. And it could be fast knowledge with Mercury in Aries. And it's that sense of, I'm ready for what's next. Like, I'm finally ready for what's next. Because it's a fast-moving change. So you do want to be careful to not make any physical errors, to have any accidents. Not a good time to learn how to juggle knives. Probably not the best time to play with fire. Because the energy could also be accident-prone, since it's related to Uranus, which is unexpected and fast-moving energies. But overall, this is something where you could feel the last layer of a breakthrough, of a completion. If you've been moving through something that has taken up a lot of energy, a lot of time, that's been very slow-moving, which is the reality for things in our lives. You know, you can understand that it will end at some point and you're ready for it to end. Well, these last 2 weeks of April can bring about that quick resolution, that final understanding. It can be these last energies that are done and complete and again set you free. So we have change right now. And if you can stay open and trusting, it will help. It will help with the flow, to not overthink it or get stuck in fears or get stuck. There isn't a lot of energy here about getting stuck. I mean, this is a lot of progress and moving it forward and saying, okay, I'm really done, and I understand what I went through, what I learned, what I needed to know, and now I'm ready. I'm ready for this next beginning. And the planets in Aries are supporting that. They're giving you the ideas. They're giving you the confidence they're giving you the ability to start something new that's based on who you really are, not who other people think you are or who you thought you were or the role you thought you had to play to make money. It feels like to the heart of what matters to you and your life. There's something here that's coming through. There's something here that's asking you for your attention, that's asking you to take a risk on yourself. Take a risk on yourself because you'll have the courage. It's like the courage is building and it's growing stronger, where the more that you move forward, the more that things show up to support what you need in terms of inspirations, ideas, resources, the people to work with. It's like there's energy here to move it on forward. And it's funny because I'm also getting this image of a stale cookie. And I swear I'm not saying that because I'm hungry. I'm not hungry. This stale cookie, it's like sitting on the counter, and it represents something you used to want or you used to like. And now it just has the energy of feeling stale. And there could be nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad cookie. It just sat out for too long, and it doesn't connect anymore to what you want now. So if you come across stale cookies, you're understanding how there's something that you used to want, and it's okay to set yourself free. It's okay to no longer want that. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to have something better rise up, come out, and show you what it is and what it needs to be. So I feel like that's part of this too, because we can unconsciously feel locked in or say, well, I thought I wanted this and I should follow through and I should, the shoulds. Anytime you hear the shoulds coming up, it's a red flag, because this is about your new life path. And that isn't true for everybody. Of course, this is just general energies. But the newness of the energy is coming through right now. And that could just be a new idea or a new anything in your world. You would look at where Aries energy is in your chart. And that's where the newness is coming through. That could give you something interesting, exciting, or motivating to explore. But this is about knowing how change is a good thing, and change is necessary for survival, for life, for growth and expansion, and this is a time of change. It's a season of change. And the more that you can embrace that and allow that in yourself, the more this will, it's like it will feel right. It will feel strong in you. It will feel strong. So these energies, again, are quite dynamic. Now, the sun enters Taurus on April 20th. It will happen at 4:55 a.m., that's Eastern Time. And when the sun moves from Aries to Taurus, we get grounded. We get clear. We start to say, okay, let's make some choices here about what I need, what I want, what has meaning. Taurus is about the monies that you need to take care of your life. It's about the physical world necessities of survival. It's your shelter, it's your food, it's your clothing, and then, of course, it can be wanting a lot of those things, wanting the nice elements, wanting high class or luxury or the good things in life. That's part of Taurus too, is enjoying the finer things of life, the really good meal, the great cocktail, the great everything, the great textiles, the right fabrics. It's also an energy of basics. and simplicity. And how can I live a simple, joyful life? On Monday's show, I talked about this more, so I don't want to repeat myself. But know that we enter into Taurus and we come back to what you need. Aries is the initiation. It's the fire of life. It's that urge to get something going and started. And then we come back to Earth, if you will, with the Earth signs. We come back into Taurus and we say, okay, now this is how I'm going to live my life. This is how it happens. This is how I'm going to make my commitments. This is how I'm going to follow what I value. This is how I'm going to essentially live a good life that reflects what I find meaningful. So this Taurus energy is going to bring about simplicity. It's going to show you what stays and what goes and how to practically use something. The Sun will make a conjunction to Uranus on April 22nd. And that tends to be the roller coasters of life, unexpected developments, breakthroughs, new understandings. Uranus energies, they're slow-moving, and they are about liberation. And it's liberating you, an area of your life, truly connected to what you love. And that's what Taurus shows us, is what we love, because it's related to what we value. And this energy is interesting because Uranus at 2 degrees has been moving back and forth over this point since last spring and summer. So there's a completion energy here. Last spring and summer, there were true deep changes if you have any planets or points between 0 and 2 degrees of the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. So anything but any planets or points between 0 and 2 degrees got that Uranus shock, jolt, life changes, big life changes, and perhaps oftentimes it's once in a life changes because of how Uranus takes 84 years to make a full cycle. So it's in a part of your chart that was rocking and rolling your life. It could have been chaos. It could have been really unsettling. The fixed signs don't like change. The fixed signs are the ones that will resist change unless they choose it. But this was more like a cosmic order coming through to say, no, this isn't working because this isn't who you are. So like it or not, ready or not, big life changes are happening and are underway that could be really uncomfortable and really challenging, but ultimately they liberate you from who you are not. And we might not always realize what has changed and or what's possible. I feel this too, as it can often be an upgrade where, you know, you're fine in coach class and that's okay and you're happy and you're content and you know you can afford it and you know that it's getting you where you need to go. But sometimes the Uranus transits come through and it's saying you should be set free from this. It's not even who you are. And yes, you can be upgraded to first class. Yes, you can have more that's better for you on the other side of these life changes. But it's often destabilizing. It can be scary. It can be unnerving because there's no solid ground yet. And so this energy is coming again, building over this weekend and will complete next week of life changes that started and were in effect last April, May, and then Uranus moves on to 3 degrees, 4 degrees, etc. And this area of your chart is no longer experiencing the roller coaster. But again, that's why this April time period here, this middle week, has a lot of big change energies because, like I said, it's that full moon, and then it's the direct Uranus energies here. This can also show up through financial institutions, banking, anything with money. Again, Taurus energies, money changes. Things happening unexpectedly, the rise in the stock market, the crash of the gold market, the rise of the silver, things changing in cryptocurrency, all of that is part of this energy of next week. So it'll be interesting to see what that is and how that shows up, because what it's doing is reflecting a new value system based on how we live our lives now. Uranus is associated with technology and quantum developments, things happening quickly, quantum leaps, and anything that advances humanity. And so you look at our lives and we have technology everywhere, and is that how we want to live our lives? Is that the most important thing? And part of this, I feel actually what's interesting about Uranus and Taurus is that we start to make more conscious decisions that I don't want to be around my phone all the time. I don't want to always be reachable, right? I don't want people to always have access to me, or I don't want to always be online. I want to be offline. And the Taurus energy is about finding the simple things in life that don't create drama, chaos, complications, but you just can enjoy being in the woods. You can enjoy a really good meal. You can enjoy going to the farmer's market and not feeling like anything outside of you has control over you. So I think this Uranus and Taurus transit that we're going to have for the next 7 years is going to bring us back to basics. And it's going to give us some interesting choice points around the use of technology. And so on the one hand, we have AI, virtual realities, all these, advancing technologies that are happening that make life more convenient. There's definitely benefits to technology and to the conveniences it provides and how we're connected and communications. But there's also going to be, I think, some new personal boundaries around what people want or allow into their lives, where it's intrusive into their values, right? So I think that's going to be part of what we discover over the next 7 years. And it reflects what is essential to our lives, what is essential to living a good life, So it's definitely an interesting time. The other big energies that we have going on are the South Node transit. It's at 21 degrees of Capricorn right now, and it's approaching a conjunction to Saturn at 20 degrees of Capricorn. April is such a big month because of how we're seeing what we didn't know was there. And now I just got that hit about the Mueller report coming out, which is very Capricorn South Node. It'll be interesting to see what is in that report because of ongoing investigations and what is confidential, heavily edited, which is interesting because if it comes out, as they say, on Thursday, April 18th, again, we're going to revisit it in January 2020, where it can be the next or part of an ongoing reveal, part of a revelation around what's been happening with power dynamics and governments behind closed doors. And, it's like that scene in A Few Good Men where Tom Cruise, Demi Moore have Jack Nicholson on the stand, and, it's the most popular line in the movie, which is, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. That's this energy. It's sort of like we can say we want to know, but when this stuff comes out, it's heartbreaking. It's going to be devastating. It's going to be like, what's been going on? How is this not known? Why was this not stopped? Why didn't anybody do anything about it? Why all these questions and the anger and all this stuff coming out that, it shows where we were naive and we didn't know it. It shows where we gave our power away or where things weren't what we thought they were. So this is the energy that's building, and it's in effect. Things are happening. Things are being dismantled that are no longer of the right, we'll call it integrity. Things are being dismantled, and it's going to basically start a lot of deep healing, personally and collectively. And that's what's needed. And that's what we're ready for then. And the good news is that there's more support for healing than ever before. And there are so many fantastic healers out there these days and all different types of expertise and modalities that, there's gifts here that will show up. But we are living in a very big time. And so the astrology can show us these themes and these cycles and what is ready for us to work through and to work with in our power, in our places of love and compassion for each other. So it's a dynamic time, no doubt about it. And in your chart, you could be feeling it, especially if you are experiencing any of these transits directly. I do offer a weekly transits class. If you do want to go deeper into these transits, you can find information about that below this show, as well as my Introduction to Astrology course. It's 6 different classes and an online course about relationships. So we're moving towards this full moon. It's at 29 degrees of Libra on April 19th. And if you aren't aware or don't we already know what's completing, but it could be fast moving. You could feel an energy change. You could even feel a shift physically, energetically. I mean, I feel something around a heavy weight being released, and then you have more energy than ever before, and it's like this infusion of forward-moving energy, like a rocket launch or a bolt out of the blue, and it's fast-moving to move ahead. So it's quite an interesting time, and it's exciting too, because we know that there's so many. I know many of you. You're ready. You're so ready, and you're tired of things that have dragged on or that you've had to move through. And I hope that April gives you that peace, gives you the closure, and gives you the new start, and gives you the forward-moving energies. On that note, on Monday's show, I will be doing a story time about those forward-moving energies with Mercury in Aries and Mars in Gemini. And I hope that you'll join me then. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. And if I can help you with your spiritual business or online presence, I do have lots of resources at mollymccord.online. And then I also have my website, consciouscoolchic.com, with my 12 books, spiritual teachings, consciousness topics, and more information. So thanks so much for joining me, friends, and I look forward to connecting with you again on Monday. Take good care and have a beautiful full moon.